Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I don't see you, but I hear you. Oh, there you are. Okay.
We ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to the regular city council meeting for Monday, July 27th, 2020. Notice this meeting will be held in accordance with Executive Order N29-20 issued by California Governor Gavin Newsom on March 17th, 2020, the Ralph M. Brown Act, California Government Code Section 54950, and the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act. This meeting will not be physically open to the public. All members of the public may participate and comment via the application Zoom. Zoom meeting information and call-in information was posted on the agenda and on the city's website. Remote public comment is also available by emailing the city clerk at cityclerk@ci.ceres.ca.us. The city clerk will read your comment into the record during the public comment period. So at this time, can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Durosset.
Here.
Councilmember Condit.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rhino.
Here.
Councilmember Klein.
Here.
And Mayor Vieira.
Here. Okay, next we will have the invocation by Chris Henry from the Valley Christian Center.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Before we go into prayer, I just wanted to thank the City of Ceres, Valley Christian Center and Richland Faith Assembly of God have been in Whitmore Park the last couple of Sundays. As we have been moved outdoors, we're no longer able to have church indoors, and you guys really came through for us, especially Councilmember Durosset, who stepped up and really got the ball rolling for us to be able to meet. And we're going to be able to meet all through August right now, and it's just great, awesome. It's awesome to work with a city who recognizes how important it is to have our churches still functioning. So thank you very much. And so shall we bow our heads in prayer. Father, today we come to you, the giver of wisdom and understanding. And you say to us, whoever lacks wisdom, ask for it. Whoever lacks understanding, ask for it. Today we ask for wisdom and understanding in all these matters and in this crazy, chaotic time that we are in. Lord, you know I am thankful for this council, for this mayor, and for everyone who has come to our rescue and to our aid to enable us to continue to worship you during this COVID-19 shutdown. Lord, I pray that you give them wisdom and guidance, protect them from those who would try to wrestle any type of power away. Lord, keep them in control of this matter, and may your grace fall on this city, and may this city be a shining example of what humanity can be like. And I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a couple of presentations this evening. The first is a proclamation declaring July 2020 as Parks and Recreation Month in the city of Ceres. And I do have a proclamation I'll read here. Proclamation declaring July 2020 as Parks and Recreation Month, whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of the communities throughout this country, including the city of Ceres, and whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Ceres recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore I, Chris Vieira, the Mayor of the City of Ceres, do hereby proclaim July 2020 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Ceres, proclaim this 27th day of July 2020. So I don't know if, Mr. Lohr, if you had anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add a couple things. The Parks and Recreation, parks being in Public Works and Recreation being under the city manager. We want to thank the city council for the support and the city manager this past year. I think we've had some great projects with so many challenges we face. So I wanted to actually share my screen real quick and share our, I guess the theme, national theme this year while I speak for a couple minutes. The highlight on some park projects that are going on or are completed is the Lower Bluff Regional Park piece, the habitat area restored, the River Bluff soccer fields, the renovation, the SCADA water program at multiple parks for water efficiency, the design of Eastgate Park, which is multiple departments, planning, engineering, finance, everyone's very involved in that as those plans are out and I think going to start construction soon. And also with the Roding Heights Park Prop 68. For recreation, we've had a lot of great successes, I think, and some challenges with the whole COVID-19, but I did want to share some of those with you. This year we went from 3 to 9 small businesses we work with to bring in parks and recreation programs. So residents have seen an increased number of classes being offered at the community center or in our parks. And we did a big park and recreation software update that did some amazing things. It used to take 6 to 8 weeks for people to get refund checks. Now we're able to do them with 1 to 2 business days because we can fund directly to the credit card. And during this whole COVID-19 experiences, we've refunded almost 1,000 people and only 8 of those have been checked. So as many cities struggled, we were able to get most people their refunds within 1 to 2 business days, which really helped the residents and also us to maintain that communication with the residents over that time and not them having to call back, where's my check? We cut down transactions from 12 minutes down to 2 minutes. And I think another thing is we brought Big Valley Grace Church on. And last is, this summer, unfortunately, we were not able to do it in-person classes, but we also had a hybrid program of doing some virtual classes, not in person. So I just wanted to thank the Park and Recreation staff, Crystal Aguilera, Maya Narvis, Kenny Vaughn, Kara Butler, and also Tom Westbrook, who was our direct supervisor and still is, for his support. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have presentation certificates of appreciation for the instructors of the Project Spark program. I wanted to take this time to kind of acknowledge a couple of individuals within our community that have done an outstanding job providing programs that the city really didn't have. The young gentleman that I'm going to speak about took it upon himself to create a program through his passion for robotics and engineering. And he noticed that this was something that the city of Ceres was missing. And so he founded a program and is now teaching other young people about science, technology, and different things. And I shared with him earlier this evening that what I think he's done has been phenomenal, and I wish we had more like him and his uncle in our community providing our citizens with these services. So there are a couple of certificates I wanted to read here. The first one is presented to Nahel Gill in honor of the City of Ceres' outstanding community service. Mr. Gill has always had a passion for robotics and engineering. When he noticed the lack of STEM programs and learning opportunities within his own community, he decided to create one. He is now the founder and facilitator of Project Spark, a program that introduces and teaches children about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. He has procured donations and enabled his classes to be offered for free to the Ceres community through his partnership with the Recreation Department. Your accomplishment is an inspiration to the youth of our community. You have represented the city with pride and excellence. Congratulations for your outstanding achievement. So I did want to present that to him. I apologize that we're not able to do this in person, but when we get through the current situation, I'm sure all of us would love to meet with you and hear more about this program. The other certificate of recognition goes to Nave Athwal, and I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. He's also a native and is a successful engineer that is dedicated to sharing his passion for STEM with the community he grew up in. He assisted in the founding and facilitation of Project Spark, a program that introduces and teaches children about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. He is setting an example for and supporting Nahel Gill, the creator of Project Spark, in becoming a young leader and engaging in his community. Your accomplishment is an inspiration to the youth of our community. You have represented the city with pride and excellence. Congratulations for your outstanding achievement. So again, I wanted to thank both of these two individuals and I'll open it up to see if either one would like to say a few words.
I just wanted to say that my name is Nahal Gill, first of all, and I would like to thank the Ceres Community Center for allowing me to hold my classes there before COVID. And as of right now, I'm just doing these classes online on Zoom twice a month. And maybe a couple of you guys are wondering why I started these classes. The reason I did start them, as Mr. Vieira already said, was because I did see a lack of the STEM classes and robotic classes in Ceres. And I did take a robotics class 2 years ago in the summer, and that's when I found a passion and love for robotics. And then I decided to bring it to younger kids, and if they have the same passion as I did for robotics, they can learn and do the same products as I did, and me want to do good and achieve in school, so they can also become engineers or robotics engineers too. And thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Again, thank you. If there are no other comments, does anyone from the council have any comments? If not, we'll move on to citizens communication. Okay. Citizens communication to council on matters not included on the agenda. While the city council welcomes and encourages participation in city council meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes for expression of non-agenda items. Matters under the jurisdiction of the city council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the city council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the city council. Citizens are entitled to address the city council on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. Public comments will now be accepted through Zoom. For those participating through the web, please raise your hand and request to speak. It's the hand icon at the bottom of your screen. If you are participating by telephone, please press 9 on your phone. The city clerk will call your name in the order that the requests are received. When it's time for you to speak, the city clerk will unmute your microphone. The city clerk, please provide the name of each person that has requested to speak. So at this time, I'll ask the city clerk if there is anyone that would like to speak.
Yes, Mayor. First hand raised is Jean Yakeley. Mr. Yakeley, I'll unmute your mic. If you could state your name for the record first, and then I'll unmute. Your mic is unmuted. Mr. Yeagley?
Mr. Yeakley, can you hear us? I see his hands up. His mic is
Right,
on.
and his mic is on.
Hey, Diane, from
Yes.
a phone, is it *9 to unmute your phone?
It's *9 to unmute, yes.
Mr. Yeakley, can you press *9 on your phone to unmute your line?
Well, it looks like his mic is on. There's no red line through the mic. The mic is open. We're just not getting sound.
All right. Well, we see if Mr. Yeakley can figure that out. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on a non-agenda item?
I do not see any other hands raised, Mayor.
Okay. Have you received any public comments through email?
Checking them now, and I do not see any comments.
Okay. One more.
The only comment, I will backtrack there. The only comment we did receive was before the meeting, Gene sent 3 pictures that he wanted us to display during the open mic when he was going to speak.
Okay. You want to put the pictures up? I'm not, and I don't know if he wants to address it now or in the future meeting. He's removed his hand from
Okay.
speaking.
Oh, he raised his hand back up.
Back. Why don't you go ahead and put the pictures up?
Okay.
We can look at them and try to determine what he might have wanted to ask about.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll show the pictures, Mayor. There was 3 pictures shown. I don't know if they're any particular orders. I think he was interested. This is our standard no dumping sign.
Okay.
I'm going to show another photo. Here it looks like some discarded household items, I presume for an area near his neighborhood. And then the third photo was this one. Looks like some discarded fence debris. You can see there's a brand new fence in the background. That looks like at the corner of Don Pedro and Sweet Gum.
So, Tom, can you just, for the record, and again, I'm not sure what Mr. Yeakley wanted to ask, but can you kind of go over the parameters for the public on putting those items out and then calling for pickup and how much time they have?
Yeah, generally you call for a bulky item pickup. Our residents get to call twice a year. The bulky item pickups generally are once a week. So depending upon what day goes out there, it may be out there for a couple of days before it is picked up. But you can arrange the bulky item pickup by calling Bertolotti.
Okay. So and how long are they able to have that out in the street before they would be cited?
Generally, if they don't call a bulky item pickup, we would send a notification through our code enforcement office to those residents to either remove the items or to get it called to get it picked up.
Okay. Okay. So again, Mr. Yeakley, I don't know if you can hear us. I'll give you a minute or more to try to call in. If not, we can always address this at the next council meeting or when we are back in public. I suspect that this is something that doesn't always go away. Okay, well, it looks like either there might be some technical difficulties on his end. So with that, we will move on to appointments to boards and commissions. We have none. Conflict of interest declaration. Is there anyone on the council that would like to declare a conflict of interest on any of the 9 consent calendar items? Okay, hearing none, we will move to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion unless otherwise requested by an individual council member or the public for special consideration. Otherwise, the recommendation of staff will be accepted and acted upon by roll call vote. This time, is there anyone on the council that would like a consent calendar item pulled for further discussion?
Items 6 and 7.
Item number 9.
Is there anyone else on the council? Okay, is there anyone in the audience that is listening that would like a consent calendar item pulled for further discussion other than items 6, 7, and 9? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, I see none, so I will look to the council for direction of the items other than 6, 7, and 9.
I'll move to adopt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, and 8.
Second.
We have an motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Durasett,
Yes.
Councilmember Condit,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
and Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Item number 6, resolution number 2020-78, authorizing the city manager to approve an agreement with Grover Landscaping Services, Inc. for landscape maintenance in the downtown business district. Vice Mayor Rhino?
I have a couple of questions, and this would be for Mr. Damas. We talked before about all the, I don't know what the technical word is, all the stray palm trees are just popping up throughout the different landscape areas downtown. And you said that park staff was trying to find something to kill those, because there's quite a few. Did they ever find something, or will the landscape contractor just leave those growing where they shouldn't be? Because I see where they're going to be pruning palm trees, but I didn't want them to prune all these little babies that are popping up where they aren't supposed to be.
No, they'll get dug up. Then as they grow back, they'll get sprayed.
Okay.
Currently, from what Grover was telling us, is that they're a little too tall right now. So as soon as Grover's under contract, they'll remove them. And then as they pop up, they'll either spray them or just remove them some more.
Perfect. And then Mr. Westbrook, if you could put up, it's one of the bid submittal pages. It's L3.1 and L3.2. Are you able to put those up on the screen?
I'm going to try to do that. Do you know what pages they were, Councilman Rhino?
Oh, well, it just says item 6, and it's,
Looks like 62.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm trying to get there. Is it page 16?
I thought Mr. Damas said it was 62.
Oh, 62. Okay, hold on a sec.
It's the one that it's highlighted for this blue highlights to show where the project actually is, or where the work is actually going to be.
I think this is it. Is this the one you were looking at?
Yes. So can you flip it or not?
I don't think I have the ability to change the image. Let me see.
All right. So my question is that it shows the blue highlights are the weed and blow work area. But when let's say I go north on 4th Street and I get to North, and on the northeast corner, it's got that blue highlight area. So it's basically to the east of that one pop out. So of course that would include it, but then on the pop out below it, it doesn't show that it extends over there. And then on the west side of that same intersection, it looks like the blue highlight area just goes across the sidewalk and does not include those two pop outs, the one that's right next to Wells Fargo and the one that is across the street where the parking lot is. So I just want to be sure that those areas are included, because if I'm following kind of the way the diagram was done with the highlights, it would be everything between those blue highlights. But yet north of North Street, we have those two large pop outs, and those aren't highlighted. It just stops right before.
It's all encompassed. They walked this whole project with us. We walked both sides of the street all the way up and down. So all this is included. I'm not quite
So
why they're not highlighted, but it's
all of that new landscaping, except the portion probably that's between the pop out at North Street and that goes along our parking lot, that's not included?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Because the
Just
city,
all the new stuff, part of the renewal rejuvenation project.
okay. And that's, the contract is for a year, and when they're talking about blowing off, they're gonna be doing the sidewalks, not necessarily, they're gonna, I saw where they're gonna be hauling off the weeds and everything like that, but they're gonna go through and blow
So
off sidewalks.
Yeah, they'll blow the sidewalks, the curbs, and the gutters. We won't blow too much in the brick areas. We'll cover it, but not get too carried away. Blow it out to the center so the street sweeper can come through and pick it up.
Great, thank you. Those were my only questions.
Okay. Are there any other questions of the council on this item? Is there any questions from the audience on this item? Okay. All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the council for further discussion or direction.
Move to adopt resolution number 2020-78.
Second.
Okay, we have a we have a vote and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Rossett,
Yes.
Councilmember Condit.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rhino,
Yes,
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
and Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Item number 7, resolution number 2020-79, awarding the construction contract for the West Point subdivision landscape improvements project to Joe's Landscaping and Concrete, authorizing a 10% contingency, authorizing a budget amendment, and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract. Vice Mayor Rhino?
in the resolution, about the fourth paragraph down, it says, it's the West Point subdivision landscaping improvement project is hereby created and a budget amendment is necessary to fully fund the project. Does that mean that we don't have the money in the West Point account, that we have to take it from another fund? Where's oh, there's Mr. Westbrook.
We do have the money. So before we had created a strawberry bathroom project, and it was for, I believe, 75,000. So we never created a formal CIP project for the median landscaping. So that's what this budget amendment is doing. It's creating a new CIP project and allocating money to it. But we do have the money available to construct this project.
Do you know where that money is coming from?
Letitia, help me out, but I think it is the West Point Assessment District.
Yes, it's in the West Point Assessment District Fund.
Okay.
Money was already in there, just needs to be spent.
All right, thank you. Then my other questions are, on Friday, I met with Mr. Padilla and Mr. Westbrook, and because I had questions on the landscaping plan itself. And during the course of that discussion, one of them let me know that they had found out the day before that some of the trees were going to have to be removed because there's an issue with the new quint. The trees are hitting the top of it or something like that. So my concern was that we're being asked to approve this landscape project knowing that right off the get-go, there's going to be trees removed. Some of the trees that are shown in the landscape plan may not be planted because they're going to be an issue for the quint. I went out there Friday, and the tree that I thought was really the biggest issue wasn't really in the landscape area. It was one that was in the grassy landscape area in front of a house that was almost all the way across the street. So I had asked if they could find out which trees were going to be removed, so at least we would have an idea of how it would affect this plan that they want us to approve, but I don't know if they know that or not. Because to me, we're being asked to approve a plan, but we already know it's really not the plan because they're going to be taking out, I don't know how many trees.
Yeah, Councilman Rhino, I know that I talked with Mr. Damas this afternoon. He was out there this morning with, or today with Kenny Vaughn, the park supervisor. You're correct. The trees in the median necessarily aren't the problem. It's some of the ones that are in the landscaped areas in front of the houses, which this project isn't going to remove anyway. So Jeremy, can you discuss your findings just a bit?
Yeah, so the trees that are on the outsides, you know, so the quint's going to drive down the road. The trees that are in the medians appear to be okay. There may need to be a little bit of pruning. We may need to look at the trees that the project is specifying to be planted to make sure that those grow tall. The bigger issue is the trees on the outsides, like you just alluded to a minute ago. So West Coast Arborist is coming through tomorrow morning with us, and we're going to walk all of it and determine which trees can be elevated, what can't be elevated. A lot of them are going to have to be pruned to get off the roadway. I don't know those numbers yet. I'll know maybe by the end of the week.
Okay, so it sounds like the existing trees that are in the median are not going to be removed. They may get pruned, but they're not going to be removed, so that will not affect the landscaping plan that's in front of us.
No, it'll just affect, it's the tree trim maintenance that's on the outside edges.
Right. And then I also was curious what this, what's it called again? The cement stuff, cobblestone.
Yeah, the cobble.
What the cobble is going to look like. And I looked online with the company that is going to, that I guess did the plans, but they don't show anything with that amount of cobble. And I was concerned because we have a quarter-mile stretch, we have a half-a-mile stretch, and I kind of wanted to get a feel what it would look like. I mean, we've gone so many years with how bad that looks that when we do redo it, I want it to be something that we can be proud of, that it does fit the bill. And then when they were talking about replacing or not putting some more trees in, my concern was that we would just have this flat appearance and there wouldn't be any elevation. And I didn't think that would look very good. But both of them had suggested that the Save Mart up in Modesto, they do the cobble. So I drove up there, but I don't believe it's the same type that we're going to have because the cobble is a real small area, but there's bigger cobble, and then around the inside perimeter, there's like these little tiny rocks, and I'm sure that isn't what we're going to do. I guess I'm just struggling with not being able to see what it's really going to look like. I have visions of when the Welcome to Ceres sign was put up, and I remember Councilmember Rob Phipps at the time, I said something to him about the size of it, and he goes, yeah, I thought it was going to be bigger. So I just want to be real cautious that when we're going to be doing something that's going to cost a lot of money and it's a long distance, that we really know what it's going to look like.
So I'll touch on a couple things. The scope of the project calls for removing 4 trees and replacing them, but that's already part of the scope. We do have cobble along the bike path, along the canal, the TID canal, along Moore Road, at Roading and at Surface. At Service, there's short stretches of cobble that's about the same size that we're going to be putting here in Malik and Aristocrat. So I drove by there yesterday and I saw the cobble. It looks pretty good. I mean, that's what it's going to look like. So if you want to see some cobble, that might be, a trip you can make along the bike path.
Well, that would have been nice before our meeting to know that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I mean, and then another thing to know, I believe this project was kicked off as far as the design, at least a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. So it's been in the works for a little while.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel, I have a picture of that on the bike path. If you want me to share my screen, Councilman Rhino, I can show it to you real quick. So this is at the at Roding and Moore Road. So it's kind of the entrance on the southwest side, but this is essentially, Daniel, what the cobble would look like in the somewhat similar in the West Point area.
That's correct.
And it would be all uniform size like that. It wouldn't have the little rocks on the interior.
Correct. It's, if I recall correctly, it's between 4 and 6 inch cobble.
Okay. And then,
I'll chime in on that. I don't think that that's a uniform cobble that Vice Mayor Rhino is talking about. I think there's small pieces in between that. If you look real closely, I think you're talking more of, I don't know if you wanted to call it stamped cobble or something that's completely uniform from every piece, like what you see more in downtown Ripon. Is that what you're talking about? Something like that? Because this looks like it's actual cobblestone that they've set in concrete.
That's what we're going to do, the actual cobblestone set in concrete.
As opposed to something where it's stamped concrete to look like cobblestone, or an actual uniform cobble that they're all the same. So I'm not sure what Vice Mayor Rhino is looking for. Do you want the uniform one, or do you want this? Because this will look different than what I think you're thinking of.
well, no, my concern was that I wanted it to be basically all the same size. I didn't want it like where they had sent me up by the Save Mart, where you had all these big pieces and then there was kind of like a trim piece around the inside that was like smaller rocks or something. And it didn't look right because it wasn't the same material. So that was my concern. And I didn't have a
I
really.
think what they're proposing here is going to have variation in it.
Yeah, it'll have a little bit of variation because it does say, between 4 and 6 inches. So all the cobble should be between 4 and 6 inches.
Okay. And it'll be broken up with shrubs, and it's not going to be a quarter mile of just the cobblestone. It's going to be the shrubs and some trees.
Yeah, like we showed you on the plans, I think it was about 16 to 20 feet of cobble. And then you have a break that's about 8.5 feet square for shrubs and a tree. And then you have another stretch where you have 14 feet of cobble. It varies a little bit, maybe between 14 and 18 feet of cobble. And then you get a square that's 8.5 by 8.5 feet with the shrubs and a tree. We did talk to the contractor. We got it in writing that they would be open to different trees. They gave us a suggestion of 4 different trees, and they put in writing that the labor cost would not change. It would just be the price of the tree, which is expected. So they are flexible and willing to work with us on the project.
Well, I noticed up at the Save Mart around where the cobble was and where it was bigger rocks or shrubs or something, they did have weeds coming up. And I think you had told me we shouldn't have weeds because well, I don't know why we aren't going to have weeds, but you know, I have this thing about weeds, and I don't want to have some new project that we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on, and then in a year have little weeds spouting up that we don't have the staff to go out there and pull them. And in a year, I'm going to be 67 and I'm not going to be able to go out there and pull those weeds. I'm just saying. So how do you keep those weeds from popping up between where your cobble is and where you've planted your shrub and you've put your tree?
Well, I mean, I think with this project, the intent was to have less labor-intensive maintenance. But Jeremy, I don't know if with our staffing levels, if we're going to keep be able to eliminate those weeds.
Did we put in for where the plantings are, the weed barrier?
I don't think we did, because we don't have I mean, it's an 8.5 by an 8.5 square with a tree and 4 shrubs. So it's pretty, I'd say it's relatively tight in that area. So it's really challenging as to where are we going to put the root barrier if you have shrubs and a tree.
Well, I'm not
So
saying a root.
I didn't find it in the specifications.
Okay, I'm not saying a root barrier. I'm saying weed barrier. Like when we redid our front yard, we put weed barrier down, and then we did our shrubs, and then we did our bark. And so very seldom are we having any weeds pop up. And again, that's one of my concerns, that we design something, it looks wonderful until all of those weeds start popping up again. And to me, it just kind of defeats the whole purpose of trying to make the area look improved, and you have weeds. And I know I've talked about weed barrier before, but I don't know.
Well, the rose garden has 2 layers of weed barrier. So I think that, like Daniel says, is that it's really a hit and a miss. I mean, that's a tight area to be putting weed barrier in. So even if there was weed barrier in there, I mean, we're just going to have to make sure the Howard Training Center stays on top of it.
Have you seen the rose garden lately?
Actually, I have. I drove by today.
And somebody pulled some big weeds, but that thing is full of weeds, and I don't get it. I don't get it. If you put weed barrier down, how you can have so many weeds.
But once a weed sprouts through the weed barrier, if you kill the weed as it sits there, you're not going to create the hole. When you go through and you pull that big weed out of there, you've created a hole. Now you've created an open environment for the sun and for everything else to get down. It just germinates it.
Well, I didn't pull the big weeds. I just noticed it was gone.
Okay.
I'm off of weed. I'm off of weed duty. So
for today, right?
well, yeah, I got to go to Sam Rhino Park still. So.
Do you have any more questions about this, Vice Mayor Rhino? Or
No, sir.
no? Okay.
No, sir.
Is there anyone on the council has any comments on this item? All right, I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public that's listening that would like to comment on this item? Okay, I don't see any hands, so I'll bring it back to the council for either further discussion or direction.
Move to approve 2020-79. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Dr. Rossett,
Yes.
Councilmember Condit,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rhino,
No.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
and Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, thank you. Item number 9, which is continued from the July 13th, 2020 council meeting, resolution number 2020-71, approving a contract with Steve Hallam for continued support for redevelopment and economic development activities. Councilmember Condit?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the council rehearing this item. I had voted in favor to table this item last meeting so that the rest of our council members who were not able to participate at the last meeting could hear this item and vote on it. I just have a few questions for the city manager and also the finance director. If she would like to chime in at any time, I'd appreciate it. But Mr. Westbrook, if you can kind of give an overall breakdown or an overview of the CRA and SCRA account our SCRC accounts, and kind of how they function and how much money we have in those accounts, and just a general breakdown, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, the CRA account has about $3 million, $3.6 million. Most of that money goes back to pay our bond debt. There's about $250,000 that's left there for administration. My salary, a portion of my salary, the finance director and the city clerk's salary are paid out of that, in addition to the Mr. Hallam's contract, also the work that's being done by the retail coach, which is a retail attraction for commercial. And then also our fees for Opportunity Stanislaus are paid out of that fund.
Okay. And the SCRC as well, both of those. Okay.
Correct.
Combined, that's what we all generally pay for. Okay. And so the money from those accounts, I mean, how much is left over after that, I guess, is all paid for?
This year, it's going to look like there's around 15,000 that is left over from that account in terms of the cost related to the administration.
Okay. And what can that money potentially be spent on if we did decide to go a different direction?
The administrative costs?
Well, can it be spent on, I guess, redevelopment projects or economic projects?
Certainly, the administration of that, there are other redevelopment activities that we could do with that remaining $15,000 that we anticipate will be left over.
Okay. And just also, I guess, on part-time consultants, how many part-time consultants do we roughly employ for the city of Ceres?
There's a couple. There's Mr. Hallam's contract. There is Marjorie Blom, who's doing some implementation of the general plan. Those are the two that kind of are more of the independent contracts, like Mr. Hallam's.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what is the cap on Mr. Hallam's, I guess, budgeted salary? Because he can
this year, I believe the resolution said $60,000.
Okay. And of that, how much has he collected?
This year, none. But in the last fiscal year, he billed around $51,000 total.
Okay. So projected he would probably be on pace to make that or up to 60.
It's going to be around that amount. Actually, I think the last year's contract was for up to $85,000, but staff whittled it back just a bit because he hadn't been spending anywhere near that amount.
Okay. Well, just a personal recommendation, and I think this is something the council can consider when the budget is brought back to us in September. Just speaking from personal experience and being in this profession of economic development, you know, I know the potential of getting a qualified candidate full-time, a good qualified applicant who can potentially do a full-time position for what Mr. Hallam makes part-time. I do think another option where I have suggested at past meetings is that we could put this money, if we were to eliminate the position, and with that extra $15,000 unspent, we can put that money to a COVID business relief fund and to help our small businesses here who are struggling. I also think we could partner with the Ceres Chamber of Commerce and try to utilize these monies to help with retention for these businesses and also attraction of new businesses. I do think if the city, and I know we have partnered with the Ceres Chamber of Commerce, but I really think that this is an opportunity to help fund those efforts, whether it's through COVID relief or partnering with the Ceres Chamber by funding a retention and attraction aspect for our city. So those would be my recommendations.
Are there any comments from the council? Councilmember Klein, I see you're waving your hand.
Yeah, I got my hand up. You know, I've said this before, and I think I've said it the last couple of years when it came up budget time, that I would like to see that, you know, if we're going to retain this position, and I know Tom's done a good job with what limited funds and resources he's had. But I'd like to have an employee that is more locally centered, in Stanislaus County, that's ready and available, that's not 2.5 hours away, that could concentrate a little bit more on the aspects of what our needs are. I've asked a couple times during budget process that we really concentrate on what we can do and hire locally, whether it's a part-time employee. I know that Councilmember Condon said you could get a good full-time probably for what it costs, but then you got your benefit package on top of that. There's funds that come out of that. We fund Opportunity Stanislaus. There's ways maybe taking that money and going and gearing towards a full-time economical development director. So I think there's other things to be said with that. With the COVID-19, I do understand what Councilmember Condon said, that maybe there is something we can do a little bit to help with it, since we're not being able to get the generation of output that we wanted because of the standing in place. So I would like to see that that possibly we can continue his contract for 6 months, and we really need to talk to and I know I've had this meeting with you, Mr. Westbrook, about getting somebody local. We need to get somebody local that lives within the area that can do some good, and understand what we're looking for. Tom's got a big background with Turlock and things like that, but he's moved out of the area, and I think we need to look at a local.
Okay. Vice Mayor Rhino?
Well, I will say this again, and I always seem to say it, but I worked for the city of Ceres for almost 30 years. I worked with quite a few different economic development people who lived locally, who were full-time, who were receiving benefits full-time. And I will continue to say that Mr. Hallam has done a better job as a part-time person living out of the area now than probably the majority of those people. And while he may live out of the area, I believe he has enough strong contacts locally, and he has the knowledge of the city government that I'm perfectly happy with the job he's done for us.
Okay. Well, Councilmember Klein had his hand up first, and then I'll get to you, Councilmember Drossett. Sorry.
Well, I do agree with the vice mayor. He's done a good job, and he knows the thing. I mean, look what he's done with Turlock. The other thing that was brought up would be with COVID relief. The Stanislaus County controls the purse strings, the money for the CARE Act. So, we need to do a little bit better job reaching out to small businesses to apply with the county for funding through the CARE Act, which is COVID relief for small businesses.
Okay. Councilmember Drossett?
Yeah, I appreciate us able to bring this back to this meeting here. I think Steve's done an outstanding job, and obviously being part-time, 20 hours a week and doing the job that he's doing. I know I asked Tom at the last meeting how important was it to have a person like this, and he said we had to have it. And again, it's not general fund money. It's different dollars. And, we're obviously in a terrible time. Everybody knows that, so not waste people's time with that. But, I'm glad that he's there. He's on board and ready to go forward. If we want to, and to support Councilmember Klein, if we want to come back and look at this 6 months, and just from seeing where we're at with COVID, that would be fine. But I would just say we keep his contract for the year.
Okay. Councilmember Condon?
Thank you. Mr. Westbrook, if you could kind of give an analysis of the employee health insurance, break down how much it would, I guess, an additional cost on top of salary would be.
Yeah, so for a family rate, I thought that I printed that up. I think it's around 26,000 for an employee with a family rate, about 17,000 if it's an employee plus one, and about 7,000 if it's an employee on their own. I had Letitia run the numbers if we were going to hire a full-time economic development person like we had 6 or 7 years ago. That fully benefited positions around $180,000 a year.
Okay, and so roughly with his cap position, that's 60 plus the 15 unspent, we're pretty much $1,000 off. We're at 85K, correct?
It's 180,000 for a fully benefited position.
Okay, so we would be over that in a sense. So, but I understand Mr. Hallam. I've enjoyed working with him. I said that the last meeting. Again, this is nothing personal against him whatsoever. But I would encourage my colleagues, if you do believe he has done such a good job, that you should consider budgeting a full-time position for Mr. Hallam come September.
Okay. Before I make any direction, before I go to the public, I'll give it my input. I kind of see both sides of the fence. I would agree with Councilmember Condit that I think we need, I've said this all along from the very beginning, I think we need somebody full-time. However, I think Mr. Hallam has done a good job. And he is doing it not as an employee. I don't know that maybe what all of us are looking for is too far out of the realm of what could possibly happen. I don't know how much longer Mr. Hallam wants to continue to do this. And I don't know how quickly we're in a position to move from somebody, part-time as a consultant to a full-time employee. I think that's something obviously we need to budget. My greater concern in the short term is, and that's what I'm looking at here, is the workload that our city manager has to do to fill in the absence of no one in his role and all of the other things that we're kind of dealing with. And so for that, I think Mr. Hallam is a nice bridge. So I guess if I'm looking at this, I'm okay with Mr. Hallam, for a period of time, whether that's 6 months or what have you, and then we get through the budgeting process and we look to either continue with him or bring on a full-time person, and at that point, we no longer utilize Steve, or he comes on full-time, which I don't think he really wants to do, to be honest with you. But that's kind of how I look at it. I see both sides. I think we definitely need to invest in that. But I think Mr. Hallam has done a good job. So that's how I kind of feel. And I don't know how easy it would be to find someone in the current climate to come in and do this. It's pretty hard to interview people and do everything with the whole COVID-19. I know it's happening, but anyway, that's just my thoughts. So at this time, I do want to open it up to the public to see if there's anyone that would like to speak on this item. Okay, I don't see any hands, so I'll bring it back to the council for further discussion or direction.
Move to approve 2020-71.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Mayor, I just had a quick comment. I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem.
Zoom is difficult at times, so I apologize. But respectfully, I get that. I get your points, Mr. Mayor. I just, speaking from personal experience and being in this profession, I have full confidence in this climate that we could get somebody. That's just all I wanted to say. I do believe that if we put this out there, we could get somebody in this ballpark figure who would go out there and perform a full-time job. And but I appreciate the council rehearing this. Again, this has nothing to do with Mr. Hallam. I've enjoyed working with him in my professional capacity. And respectfully, I can't support this. I do think the money would be better spent partnering with the Ceres Chamber and trying to retain and attract new businesses with the money in this accounts. So thank you for hearing me out tonight.
Okay. One question for you, Tom, along this line. So with what we're budgeting here, it doesn't really align with the timing of our budget, does it?
Not necessarily. This is for a year contract.
So it's a year that's going to come. Well, it just depends if we go back. I mean, and start in July like we normally do with our budget. So I guess it would get us through that point. And if I'm hearing Councilmember Condit, I think what he'd like to do is more maybe just a bridge gap until we get to the budget discussion, and then sees about a permanent position at that point. And I don't want to put words in his mouth because I don't know if that's exactly what he's looking for, but it's kind of what I'm hearing. So, just so I understand it. But we do have a motion and a second on the floor that we have to act on first. So are there any other comments before we hear that or go through that motion? Okay, with that, I will ask for the roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Durasett,
Yes.
Councilmember Condit,
Nay.
Vice Mayor Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
and Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, unfinished business, we have none. Public hearing, we have one item. Hearing continued to July 27, 2020 at the request of the applicant. Well, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Westbrook. I don't know if he wants to read the whole thing, but it looks like there has been a request to continue the hearing to January 25th of 2021.
Yes, there has been. So the applicant, Representative GDR Engineering, did send a letter to the city staff requesting continuance of this item due to the COVID-related aspect of our meetings at this point. They felt it was necessary to have an open public meeting with all parties that are interested to speak. We did make the owners of the River Oaks Golf Course aware of this. Their attorney also sent an email today basically agreeing to continue the item to the date requested, which was January 25th, 2021. So with the council's concurrence, the item would be heard in January of 2021.
Okay. Tom, do we need a motion for this?
Yes,
Okay.
to continue to that specific date.
I'm sorry, what was that?
To continue to that specific date, if that's the wish of the council.
Before I do that, I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone that wants to comment on this? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council.
I'll make the motion to move the hearing on this agenda item to January 25th of 2021.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Durasett,
Yes.
Councilmember Condit.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
and Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We have no new business. So at this point, discussion items, it looks like council member referrals. Is there anyone on the council that would like to have an item placed on a future agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to council reports. I don't have anything to report, so Vice Mayor Rhino?
The question on the Whitmore sidewalk out by Chavez School, was that done with the Safe Routes to Schools, or is it another project?
Daniel, do you want to respond?
It's, that was all one single project. Are you asking, if you're asking about the funding money, there was state active transportation funds money. There was also SB1, which was the extra or supplemental gas tax money that bill was passed, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago. And I believe there was also some Measure L money on that project.
So do any of those require that landscaping strip that's between the sidewalk and the road? Is there a requirement that we have that?
No, but we are going to put decomposed granite. It's tiny little rock. It's going to look like sand. So we are going to fill in that parkway with that decomposed granite. And in about 3 weeks is what we're hoping for, maybe 4 weeks.
All right, but my question is, knowing that the issues we have with not having enough staff to maintain right-of-ways, why would we even design that if there's no requirement that we have to have a landscape strip? Why would we not have just done the sidewalk and not worried about a landscape strip that no one will be able to maintain?
Yeah, I think the sand there will give it a better look. There'll be something between the sidewalk and the curb, and I believe also that is our standard.
Well, that was my question. Is
Yeah.
it a standard that we have to have a landscape strip between the road and
It's
the
a,
sidewalk?
it's a city standard. It's not a funding requirement, but it's our city standard. And for that stretch, in the area with the ranchettes, we didn't have enough right of way, so that's why we put the sidewalk up
Oh,
against
no, the
curb.
sidewalk's a great idea because of the kids that walk along there, but when you get a chance, could you send me a copy of that section and the city standards that say we require that landscape strip, please?
Sure.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Condit?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Councilmember Drossett?
Nothing.
Councilmember Klein?
Yeah, I'm going to feed off of Vice Mayor Rhino's items 6 and 7, and she brought it up, and that's one thing I was going to bring up, is the north side of Whitmore Avenue by Cesar Chavez School. We don't have any landscape agreement for maintenance. I mean, I drove down there, we got the medium that is just put in, that looks really well with the fence up so kids can't run across. But if you go to the north side of the street where the sidewalk pedestrian thing is, there's nothing but weeds in there. It is overgrown. I mean, and almost from Booth Road all the way out to the Faith Home area, not that far out, but in the East Gate, that just looks horrendous. So do we have a landscape agreement with anybody to take care of that?
We do, Howard Training Center.
Well, somebody please contact them and get them out there with a hula hose or something and clean that up.
But I think that probably their clients aren't working, because when I've been out walking, I only see like a supervisor working. I don't see the normal clients that I would see.
So are we
Correct.
still paying them?
No. We're only paying them for work that they perform.
But is that true that because of the COVID that they didn't have their regular staff out? So
That's exactly the reason. And we're having not only there, several areas, the bike paths are experiencing a lot of issues. They're hitting the roadways more than the bike paths, but that's the exact problem. Is they used to have 3 crews out. Right now they're having a hard time putting 1 crew on the street.
That's it, Mayor.
Okay. All right. With that, we will move to staff comments. I apologize. I might be bouncing around to my normal thing. I just was looking on the screen to see who's part of it. So we'll start with Mr. Westbrook.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to indicate that today in his afternoon press conference, the governor suggested that $52 million for kind of the valley counties is going to be allocated and to fight the COVID response. Just today, the county, Stanislaus County, went over 8,000 COVID positive cases. That's since the start of the event. So many of those folks have already recovered. And then just wanted to mention that tomorrow night, the beautification committee will be meeting again.
Okay. Ms. Diaz? Okay. Mr. Padilla?
Let's see. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, Matt brought up Eastgate Park, so that's supposed to start construction on Tuesday of next week. Eastgate Park. So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Collins?
I have nothing to report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Weiss?
Nothing to report this evening. Thanks.
Okay. Jeremy?
I have nothing, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Hallahan?
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Ball?
I've got nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lohr?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Aaron?
Nothing. Thank you, Mayor.
And I saw that Supervisor DeMartini was on our meeting, but I don't think he is any longer.
I'm here.
Okay, Supervisor DeMartini?
I can't tell you how much I hate computers and stuff, so I can't wait till we can come into your meetings in person. The only thing I wanted to remind you of is the $15 million the board appropriated 2 weeks ago for small businesses. We're just about got the application done. I was told today that the applications would be available for businesses on the Friday, July 31st. So these grants are from $25,000 for small business up to 25 employees. And the way I understand, though the application is not available yet, it would be up to $50,000 for larger businesses with 50 employees. And these would be businesses that were really affected by the coronavirus. Just for examples, restaurants, nail salons, barber shops. Those are the ones that are really hurt. But really, anybody who can demonstrate a significant loss of income and that you would intend to stay in business. So these are grants, and we will have $15 million to pass out. This is from the $96 million that the federal government had appropriated to the county. So these applications will be available to download off our website on Friday.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, with that, it looks like we will adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be held on August 10th at 6 p.m. So thank you all. And I would say drive home safe, but I'm sure most of you are already there. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. You too.